Harare. Mr. Robert Mugabe resigned as Zimbabwe's president yesterday, shortly after Parliament began an impeachment process to end his nearly 4 decades of rule. The 93-year-old clung on for a week after an army takeover and expulsion from his own ruling Zimbabwe African National Union, Patriotic Front, ZANU-PF, party, which also told him to leave power. Wild celebrations broke out at a joint sitting of Parliament when Speaker Jacob Mudenda announced Mr. Mugabe's resignation and suspended the impeachment procedure. I, Robert Gabriel Mugabe, in terms of Section 96 of the Constitution of Zimbabwe, hereby formally tender my resignation. With immediate effect, said Mr. Mudenda, reading out the letter. Mr. Mugabe's resignation was the climax of a power struggle in the ruling ZANU-PF party over who will succeed him, rather than popular protests against his rule. The army seized power after Mr. Mugabe sacked ZANU-PF's favorite to succeed him, Mr. Emmerson Mnangagwa, to smooth a path to the presidency for his wife Grace, 52, known to her critics as Gucci Grace for her reputed fondness for luxury shopping. Mr. Mnangagwa, who is known as the Crocodile and is one of the pillars of the security establishment that has helped keep Mr. Mugabe in power since white minority rule ended in 1980, is now expected to take over as president. Mr. Mugabe's resignation was the climax of a power struggle in the ruling ZANU-PF party over who will succeed him, rather than popular protests against his rule. Reports in September said that Mr. Mnangagwa was plotting to succeed Mr. Mugabe, with army backing, at the helm of a broad coalition. The plot posited an interim unity government with international blessing to allow for Zimbabwe's re-engagement with the world, after decades of isolation from global lenders and donors. However, Mr. Mugabe's resignation letter did not indicate who would succeed him. November 6, President Robert Mugabe fires Vice President Emmerson Mnangagwa, paving the way for his wife, Mrs. Grace Mugabe, to be his successor. The move angers the military, which has close ties to Mr. Mnangagwa. November 14, tanks moved towards Harare, with gunfire heard around Mr. Mugabe's residence a day after Army Chief General Constantino Chiwenga issues a warning. By the next day, the military has seized control, though it denies staging a coup. November 15, South Africa says Mr. Mugabe has told its president, Mr. Jacob Zuma, that he is under house arrest, but is fine. November 16, Mr. Mugabe refuses to step down during talks with generals, which some Zimbabweans see as a bid to buy time to negotiate a favorable exit. Meanwhile, opposition gathers pace within his party, with 8 out of 10 branches of the ruling ZANU-PF demanding that he step down. November 18, tens of thousands of people staged joyful demonstrations across the country to demand Mr. Mugabe's departure and celebrate his apparently imminent demise. November 19, the ZANU-PF sacks Mr. Mugabe as leader and demands that he resign as head of state. It also expels his wife Grace and names Mr. Mnangagwa as new party chief. It threatens to impeach Mr. Mugabe if he does not resign by midday on Monday.